All right, so now I'm going to show you one of my rubrics that I made on a task. So here, if you look, when you do this, it just says the value is -1. So I save mine as Word documents in a Google. So in order to view the actual equations that are in there, you have to open it with Google Docs. So this is from a trigonometry unit that I'm teaching, and students were asked to find the value of tangent of 3 pi over 4 is -1. And then how does a value of 3 pi over 4 minus pi compare? Explain or show your reasoning. And then how does that compare with the tangent of 3 pi over 4 plus 7 pi? So what I'm going to do here is just take a quick little image of this, copy it so that you can see the file, and then just show you the kind of work that I got. So on here, students would have, if they're one or beginning, little or no explanation, like, I don't know, it's B, or, like they very little effort to put in there. Approaching, if a student is putting forth work, but it may or may not be correct. And then 3, proficient, if they're mostly right with a small error, and excelling, they would give you a really good explanation. So looking at this scored a 2. So as I'm looking at the work the student submitted, like, they submitted work, and I have sines and cosines and tangents here, but it doesn't really answer the question. They just kind of wrote down a bunch of trig stuff. So that scored a 2, like, you're putting forth an effort. And when I put that in Google Classroom, because I do that and it'll sync over, I always make sure I put a comment that, says like, hey, good effort, make sure to check into the Zoom. I'm going to go over that. You can also do this very thing that I'm doing here and show the rubric scores and talk with the students in class about what things have scored, as long as you make sure you don't show the individual student names, and just talk about it. This is for everyone to get better. Just show the kind of work that would be needed to earn a 1, 2, 3, or 4. So as I'm looking at this one, again, here is the work that the student submitted. And there's a lot of sine, cosines, and tangents, but the student, while showing a lot of work, is confused. So it's not saying or addressing the question as to why the tangent of 3 pi over 4 is -1, and what would happen if I subtracted pi from that value. And same thing with the second one. So here's a sideways one too, and sometimes in Google Classroom, when they take images, the images might come in sideways. So it just says, when plugged into a calculator, you get the same value. So they show the work, and their solution was to plug that into the calculator. So they just put this into the calculator and got -1. Same thing here. So they plugged that into the calculator also and got -1. So that's perfectly acceptable. Students might not get the unit circle and find that the sine over the cosine is -1, depending on which quadrant they're in on the circle. So very few students make that. So here's another one, and they just said they're the same in comparison, and they use a calculator comparison. So that, for me, is okay. They put it in there, they solved it with the calculator. So to select in sequences, again, you might just take images of the files. You can take pictures of their work and just talk about what would make a good reason or good justification for a value that was scored 2, 3, or 4, and then encourage, like, you may have gotten a 2 today, but let's go for a 3 tomorrow, or a 2 to 4, and just say, let's get better at showing our